Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Incompetent New Managers. I worked for a small e-commerce company that had an odd dynamic between the CEO and the head of tech. There was a messy divorce between the two, and the CEO hired a new director of tech, who hired another guy as his head of business intelligence and data entry. Initially, they seemed fine, and they talked about all their plans, about how they were going to fix all the old code that did make the systems and websites slow and potentially crash. But as time went on, we all learned that these guys were literally just talk. They couldn't deliver anything they promised, were very arrogant, and took to taking 2 to 3 hour lunches at the bar and getting drunk. But because they kissed up to the CEO and because he hated the old CTO, he kept forgiving them, in spite of frequent protesting from the other teams in the company. One day, everything seemed to go awful. I led the analytics team at that time and had a report that pulled in internal stats, as well as API calls to Google and Adobe. Our live reporting showed that our conversion rate had fallen off, and a quick check with the members of tech that were old hires of the old CTO and very reactive and competent confirmed that the website had suddenly gone down around 9:30 AM. We called the director and the BI guy, but nobody could get a hold of them. They rolled into work much later. After the issue had been resolved, everyone was upset that we couldn't reach them, but they claimed to just be heroes that quickly handled the issue, which they stated definitely was an attack that they eventually managed to thwart. But soon the other tech guys that were there shared data that showed certain metrics were not acting consistently with an attack. After some pressure, we learned the head of BI was taking some randos through a tour of the off-site servers, saw a loose cable on the ground, picked it up and just plugged it into some slot, which created a feedback loop or something that crashed the site. They had then gone to the bar, and when they noticed the calls, they raced back, unplugged the cable and then rebooted the servers, causing everything to work again. They got ripped to shreds for their awful behavior. Even the CEO piled on. The two idiots never fully admitted this was the cause, claiming that it was an attack and a coincidental and exactly timed feedback on the servers. This is when they got petty, claiming security was bad. They removed everyone's ability to download, upgrade or call any API, without them signing off on literally everything. They hoped this would punish us all, and initially we were really upset. But the CEO was back to supporting their shenanigans. That's when inspiration hit. Everyone impacted tried to do as many new downloads and updates we could possibly do. In particular, my team, using primarily R and Python at the time, began to require checks to upgrade every library in our codebase, and created several scripts that had no real purpose, other than to load lots of libraries, hit APIs and make plots. These tech guys didn't know how to read either language, and while they suspected shenanigans, they couldn't prove it. It got so bad, they would have to spend hours every morning with our team, approaching every check with a password entry. The best came when they went into our code that was functional and commented out all API calls. The scripts failed to run, and an important automated report couldn't be updated, leading to the CEO being unable to update his presentation for the board. We showed him the commit that the BI guy had made and what he had done without consulting us. The CEO screamed at the guy for 30 to 40 minutes and was threatening to fire the guy. The arrogant jerk was reduced to tears and was crying and begging to keep his job. They immediately announced a new security patch and let us all download everything. I got a new gig shortly after, but found out the two eventually were fired for incompetence and being drunk on the job. One of the awesome original tech guys is now running everything, and as near as I know, there haven't been any major problems since. The next story is called Until It's Done. I used to work as a supervisor in my last job and was directly working with a union. Some of my managers really didn't want to deal with things when it came to workplace injuries, so I had to deal with most of them. If you have worked with a union before, you know this is a very long and time-consuming process. While important, very tedious. So that brings us to that one evening. I was on my second double in a row of 3 and very much ready to go home. As I wrapped up my area, my evening manager texted me to assist another supervisor with an injury. The supervisor was newer and needed to be taught. I informed them I was already there on a double and needed to come back in the morning, and asked if there was anyone else or if they could help them. This manager, who was notorious for passing their work on to others, texted me no, and I had to stay until it was done. I have written documentation of a directive. Who am I to say no? Since I'm teaching, I'm going by the book. I opened up the union and company policy on workplace incidents and followed it step by step. By the time we got to the medication test portion, the local clinic we use was closed and we needed to call it in. This is important, because if you don't use the local clinic, the out of area one takes over 4 hours to come out. While that was processing, I did a lengthy investigation with the union. I spent the entire night going by the book, taking pictures and documenting everything I could. By the time I finished and the test finished, it was 7 AM and my shift started in 30 minutes. This is the time the morning manager came in. They are one of my favorites and why I pick up mornings all the time. When she saw me, she said, "Oh, you are in early." I said, "I never left." Her face dropped, because they have a rule that while management, including supervisors, can work more than 16 hours, if they work more than 20 hours, they needed a 24-hour reset. I wasn't in the union, but still hourly salaried and got overtime over 8 hours in a day. So not only was I going to not be able to make my morning shift, I couldn't make my evening shift either. I was still gonna be paid for both while being sent home. She asked me who told me to do this, and I showed her the message from the evening manager telling me to stay until it is finished. I went home and enjoyed my extra day off into the weekend. When I came back, I had an interview about the incident with the senior manager. After showing my messages, which the manager tried to delete, but only did on his side, I was dismissed without any issues. The manager was written up by the senior manager, and they had to pay me my 2 regular shifts plus 24 hours of overtime. Needless to say, I stopped picking up after that, no matter how much they begged. The third story is called "Made Them Pay For It." I worked for a company that located individuals that didn't want to be found. As a lead investigator, I found the systems and databases used in performing this work to be a complete mess, nothing tied together, and made a 10-minute process take an hour with the back and forth. I created a program that would pull all the information from different databases into one single platform, effectively eliminating 50+% of the time required. Everybody loved it, including the VP, my direct supervisor, and the CEO, his supervisor. After using my program for about a year, not only were they dependent on it, but specifically sourced other databases at a super high cost that were able to have the information pulled into the platform I created. When the time came for a promised raise, they said they couldn't do it, maybe next year. I explained how much I had streamlined the company, saved them time and money, but they insisted a raise couldn't be met. So I walked into my office, removed my program from the server and quit on the spot. To say things went south quickly is an understatement. They called me, begging to reinstall my program, then resorted to threatening lawsuits, etc. Eventually, they did take me to court. And of course, I could prove I wrote the program, and they had no legal right to use it in my absence. So I won. On top of having to pay my attorney fees, they signed a contract with me to allow them to use my program by a yearly contract for the exact amount my salary would have been had they given me a raise, all without me having to step back into that building ever again. The last story is called Reimbursements. My new office reimburses mobile bills up to $50 per month. It is actually part of my total compensation. I am used to submitting the bills at the end of the financial year and usually take an annual plan. I joined this new company in the middle of 2022. My last 4 jobs were pretty similar when it came to mobile bill reimbursements. Each reimbursed a mobile bill up to $30 monthly, or $90 quarterly, or $360 annually. I used to take an annual plan and submitted bills at the end of the financial year. My new company provides this reimbursement as a part of total compensation. It provides $50 per month and actually keeps $600 separate for this. At the end of the financial year, whatever amount I have applied for reimbursement is reimbursed, and the rest of the $600 is added to my last month's salary. The reimbursed amount becomes tax-free. At the end of 2022, I submitted my annual phone bill. It's around $360. The accounts department rejects it. Apparently, a single reimbursement request cannot be more than $150. They suggest that I submit this monthly. I wonder how a monthly reimbursement goes as high as $150. Let's ask them. Accounts cannot give that info. I got in touch with finance and HR, and after going through several hoops, I found out that they updated the policy regarding monthly mobile bill upper limit as $50, but forgot to update the total reimbursement amount and reimbursable categories. Apparently, you can reimburse not just mobile bill, but a lot of other stuff, such as internet bill up to $50 monthly, as long as you can show at least 4 days working from home in a month. Electricity bill up to $50 monthly, as long as you can show at least 4 days working from home in a month. Only the $50 monthly mobile bill is part of my total compensation. The other reimbursements would be additional pay on top of everything. Now, I mostly work from home. I have been to the office a total of 10 days since I joined this company. At the end of 2023-24 financial year, I had reimbursed the following: $600 of mobile bill. Plan includes Netflix, 4 child numbers, wife, both parents, 1 additional for me. $597 of internet bill, $597 of electricity bill. I submitted bills at the end of every month and always kept the total at $149.50. Every other month, accounts would reject it, saying it has gone above $50. And I would reply back with all the unchanged policy documents. In the middle of the year, they decided to update the policy. They only kept the mobile bill policy on the intranet and removed the rest. But I had the documents downloaded, so it was no problem. Whenever someone would say that the policy documents were no longer valid, I would ask for updated documents, and they would fail to provide one. They finally updated all policy documents in June of 2024. I am yet to inform them that I got a promotion, and the documents that are applicable at my level are still not updated. They will find that out once I submit this month's bills. My limits have doubled since my previous position. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.